Another bearded man. Look at that. Beautiful. Hi, I'm Bobby Angel with Ascension Presents, and today I want to talk to you about one of my favorite saints, a saint that I didn't choose. He kind of chose me, Padre Pio. I heard it once that, we don't always choose our favorite saints or the saints that tend to follow us around, they choose us. This is one of my saint stalkers. If there's a particular saint that you find showing up in your life in different forms, one way or another, people telling you about the saint or seeing pictures of them, or they just seem to follow you, you know what I'm talking about. And for me, this was Padre Pio, and some of you may know his story, some of you may not. There's no way I can do it justice in 9 to 10 minutes. I'm just going to give you kind of big 3 points on his life, and I hope you go and research this amazing saintly figure in our church. So in 1887, a young boy named Francisco is born in Italy, and this is the young person who eventually goes on to become Father Pio of Pietrelcina in a small rural area of Italy. And at an early age, he is experiencing spiritual warfare. At the age of 4 or 5, he is starting to experience visions of angels and demons, being harassed by Satan himself. And so from an early age, he experiences the reality of evil and devotes himself as a young boy to a bit of study. At the age of 15, he discerns he wants to be a priest and enters a Franciscan a branch of the Franciscan order, the Capuchins, and discerning the orders that were around, he was looking between two. One of them you could grow beards, one of them you couldn't. He wisely chose. If you know anything about Padre Pio, then you surely know about his experience of receiving the stigmata. The stigmata is a miraculous event where an individual actually receives the 5 wounds of Jesus Christ, 1 on the side, 2 on the palms of the hands, and then on the feet. And there's only about 300 cases in history of this happening. Miraculously, St. Francis of Assisi being one of the first, and it happens to Padre Pio in the year 1918. And the doctors ruled out he didn't do it to himself. He, again, this is a phenomenon that appears suddenly and unexpectedly, preceded and accompanied by hemorrhaging and acute physical and mental pain. And he receives the wound on the side first. He doesn't tell anybody about it because he's this humble, holy monk that just wants to pray and intercede for people. And so, but friars start to notice he's bleeding. Like, even though he's trying to cover it under his habit, there's drops of blood in the hallways, and eventually the wounds on his hands and feet start to show up as well. Now, this leads to the second big point I want to say about his life is his experience of persecution, both outside the church and within the church. So once the rumors start spreading about this holy monk in the hills of Italy, people start flocking. People from the town are coming to see him regularly. People from outside cities are making the trip to visit this holy monk with the stigmata. And naturally, that starts to stir up some jealousy, some frustration. People saying it's a hoax. People are writing the Vatican saying this friar is lying, that he's contriving this. And so he becomes suppressed. He's not allowed to do ministry publicly. He's not allowed to say Mass publicly. And he endures this. He endures this cross of misunderstanding. Padre Pio, in obedience and submission to Christ, receives the misunderstanding, receives the negativity, and for 3 years has to celebrate Mass privately, cannot do public ministry. And if you have a heart for God and his people, and you want to serve and be with others, this is huge. And eventually the truth comes out that, again, this stigmata is real. His holiness is well accounted for by those who come forward and testify on his behalf, and he eventually is allowed to resume public ministry. And lastly, it's the sheer amount of miracles and the manifestation of the Holy Spirit that Padre Pio brought to the world. And you see, again, it's not hard to be a saint. It's just, it requires us to go all in. And most of us, we go kind of in, we go half in. But when a man or woman goes all in for the Lord, the blurring of heaven and earth happens. Miracles start to take place. Prayer is more effective than you could ever imagine. And figures like Padre Pio show us that this is the truth. And so it would take 2 hours to explain all the miracles that are attributed to him, but just some of them would include, obviously, the stigmata. Those wounds disappeared upon his death, and it was said that there was an odor of sweetness about them. It wasn't like a putrid smell. It was actually a sweet, heavenly smell that couldn't be explained away by science or anything else. Padre Pio had the supernatural gift of being able to read souls. He knew that if someone, he said, "I'm going to pray for you, Padre Pio." He knew if you did or if you didn't. And he confronted a priest on that. He's like, "You didn't pray for me, did you?" He's like, "Oh, no. I got distracted by whatever." He's like, "It's okay. You can think about that eulogy a different time. You can pray for me later." It was said that in the confessional, he knew when you were leaving things out. And so people found him stern, but it's because he took the sanctity of their souls seriously. He saw the reality of evil. During World War II, there's stories of him bilocating, meaning he's in two places at the same time, where he's verified to be at the monastery where he never leaves, and yet people are saying, no, I saw that monk in this town over here. It said that by his intercession, any bombs that were supposed to be dropped to destroy their monastery were diverted. The amount of people healed from visiting him, the amount of people who had wounded knee, a cancer, a girl that was deaf, that Padre Pio would pray over them, even in the confessional, and they would walk out healed. And so you see again, when we so unite ourselves to Jesus Christ, when we suffer with him, when we turn every thought captive to the gospel, when we allow Christ to live with us, that no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me, it radiates outward to actually transform our physical reality. And Padre Pio was such an amazing example of that. It wasn't, just reserved for holy people from birth. It's a decision. It's a decision that we can dispose ourselves more to the grace of God, to detach from the worldly things that keep us from entering into a deeper mystery of God. Padre Pio had atheists that visited him and that were converted. He had famous Italian actors who had left the faith long in their youth and met this friar that just, gave them brass tacks and set it straight and brought them back to the love of Christ. We ask for Padre Pio's intercession, and I implore you to read, learn more about this saint and his crazy story, and hopefully he inspires you like he has inspired me and continues to follow me around wherever I go. So thank you, Padre Pio, for following me around and not letting me settle. Thanks for watching. I pray that these resources bless you, and we hope to see you soon. From all of us at Ascension Presents, God bless.